idea for all this really came from a dream?
Yes, it did.
Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is Martina Markota. Martina is a performance artist from New York. After studying mathematics at New York University, Martina spent 10 years working in the performing arts industry in New York City. She was later exposed as a Trump supporter and hounded out of her work by far-left artists. Martina then moved on to work with the Daily Caller in Washington, D.C. as a video producer and reporter, before going to the UK to report on European events like the LOS protests in Paris and the Notre-Dame fire. She's currently back in New York City, working on independent projects like a comic book, creating a magazine, and an online television station. Martina, welcome to Nox Mente.
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
Yay.
it's our pleasure.
This is very exciting. I'm really looking forward to the Lady Alchemy superhero extravaganza.
Ooh, thank you so much. Did you see the trailer?
I did. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah.
You are so great. You're such an amazing performer. I just want to put that out. And for people who haven't seen how amazing you are, they need to just follow and see. You lay it out, girl. You really are you do it in such a high level.
Thank you. Yeah. I love aesthetics and I love weirdness, uniting the truth with the beautiful is my slogan, and weirdness is awesome. So
yeah, it's fantastic.
And she has great live streams almost every night.
Yeah, you're out there.
Yep.
You're doing it. And you've been out there a long time. So this is just for people that don't know who you are. But anyway, let's get started and go into the early young days. So back as far as you can remember, what were the things that stuck out in your life? What are like your first memories, first encounters with like pop culture and those kinds of things?
Oh my God. Wow. That's such an interesting question. Usually things you kind of just try to suppress. I don't know. I'm 35. So you get to a point where it's like I have a really good memory and I have a visual memory. I mean, I remember being a few years old. I remember the early years in Chicago, actually, is where I grew up. I was born in the Bronx in New York City. But I do remember being a few years old and living in Chicago. And then we came back in 1990 to New York, where I went to kindergarten. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff people don't know about me. There's stuff that like I haven't seen my father in like 30 years. There's like, I have 5 siblings. I don't think people know that about me. I'm one of the eldest. I was raised 5 siblings, youngest is 12 years younger than me. She had leukemia. I don't know. Yeah, stuff like that. I'm super Croatian. I mean, I'm first generation American. So yeah, that's kind of it. Suburban, middle class upbringing in Hudson Valley, New York. Went to NYU, studied math. Yeah, those are the highlights, I guess. Then I started performing. I mean, I've always been into performing. So it's one of those things, even though it's burlesque or it's like weird performance art, I remember being a kid and I was 9 years old. I was dancing around, putting on the radio, putting on an FM station, finding the right jams, making mixtapes off the radio, just click and record on the right time. And making posters, having a show. In the backyard, we have this piece of land that in the field in the backyard that has like this like plateau. It like protrudes up and then it flattens and there's trees around it. And it's a stage. And we'd call it the nature stage is what we called it. So to this day, like 30 years later, it's called the nature stage. That's what we call it. I would make flyers and posters for our show that I'm going to have on. So I get to like live that out. That's what I used to remind myself before I got blacklisted. Whenever I was like on the subway in New York and I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted. It's midnight. I'm going to perform. Like, oh, this is so exhausting every day, every day, the same thing. And I was like, what am I talking about? When I was a kid, this was like my dream, like I wanted to be a performer and a dancer and play with costumes and makeup, and I get to do it. So yeah.
Were you raised with any religion?
Yeah, Croatians are very Catholic, Roman Catholic.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
And yeah, but it's a beautiful form of Catholicism, also. Because there's a lot of that Orthodox energy there. It keeps that heavy incense and all the candles and the prayers in that sense. I love that.
Yeah, I love the Catholic Church's drama, you know,
Yes,
like we
and
have
beauty.
capes, we have costumes, like you say, there's incense, there's candles, there's, you know, the acoustics of the architecture. There's like, you know, oh my God, everything's like amazing. There's drama, there's
Oh, the
jingling
colors.
bells during the like Eucharist, during, you
It's
know.
all designed to enhance the mind control.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I'm not a big fan of like structured church or anything, or the Pope by any means. As a Catholic, I kind of hit Catholicism towards at an angle with like the alchemy.
Yeah.
So I kind of came back around to my faith and how I was raised, I think in a different way, and look at it kind of in a more Gnostic way, and see things differently. So I appreciate it in a different way, and it doesn't really involve the church. I mean, the Pope. I'm not a big fan of the Pope or
Yeah.
church, but I do think Mass is cool. It's like a it's a ritual Mass. It's a
It
ritual.
is a ritual. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the beauty, it's all there in the gem tone colors and
Yeah, the
it's
aesthetics of church is amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Gothic churches. Oh, so
yes, it's visceral, and that's you know I feel that that's an important thing. I'm not a Christian, but that has always been my favorite religion because of the beauty. It's absolutely it loves the Catholic Church actually loves beauty, obviously.
Yeah, and also when we do some of my streams, I do art history, and something you'll notice throughout history is that the Catholic Church and stuff like that, they fund the arts.
Yeah,
They fund architecture and the arts a lot of times in history, and that's, I mean, it's pretty cool. They knew to be like really opulent and make art and get involved, and that taps into the hearts and minds of the people and makes a lasting impression. So whatever reasons they were doing it, it was to make a lasting impression, to tap
and it
into them.
certainly has.
Yeah.
So back with young Martina, when you were very young, what were the things that were inspiring you though? So did you like comic books? Did you like cartoons? Were you playing outside a lot? Did you make forts besides doing the theater outside?
Oh yeah, God, we did all that. Hell yeah, we made forts and stuff. Yeah, I love nature. I grew up around, you know, property and exploring. I think exploration's really fun. But what was on your list? You mentioned some other things. I was like, yes, I did that.
Pop culture stuff. Like what cartoons did you watch when you were a kid?
Oh, you said comic books and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, so I remember the 90s too, with the dial-up internet, when I was like, probably preteen type of thing. I remember looking up a lot of those sexy babe cartoons, like Gen 13, not cartoons, like comics, like, yeah, cartoons, comics, same thing. And like Gen 13, Witchblade, Dark Child, Fathom, like the babes is what I really liked. So that's why doing this comic book project kind of really, again, tapped into my childhood kind of thing. And it's kind of like, yay, I get to be the babe that I always like admired. Like, that's exciting.
Right. Well, there's you manifested that. You really pushed that forward into your life, and there's a lot to be said about that. Okay, so but still building the structure up in your foundation so we can get deep into the dreams.
Ooh, okay, gotcha.
Did you have any childhood fears, like you know how the under the bed or the in the closet or the dark wood?
Yeah, I mean, I think darkness is scary for sure. I mean, I still get scared when I go to my mother's house back home, and if it's like I'm trying to like sneak away from my mom so I can like smoke or something, you know, she's super Catholic, Croatian mom, and even though I'm in my mid-30s, it's like, okay, and I'll sneak off out, and I'm like suddenly find myself like out by the shed in the middle of the woods, and it's like really fucking dark in nature. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, nature's so dark unless it's like a full moon. You're just like, okay, holy shit, I'm kind of scared now. Like, you know?
Yes, it is dark.
Yeah, no, the dark kind of scares me. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because I always grew up with so many siblings and people in the house, but were moments as a child when I remember I was home alone and it was kind of like scary, and you can hear creaks or whatever. It's like, what am I going to see out the window? You know, outside that dark window, just like a face staring at me, you know, like I would run from like the downstairs to upstairs, turn lights on, you know? Yeah. Definitely darkness is scary, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's you know, it's so psychologically rich and deep. And I was certainly, when I was young, I had to push into that because it always brought on some strangeness, and that was what was scary.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because like those moments when I am like out smoking as an adult, I definitely try to like calm myself down. You know, it's like you start tapping into like reality. You're an adult, whatever. I mean, to be fair, there's animals, so
yeah.
There could be an animal, to be fair. But yeah, there's a way of like kind of talking yourself out of it. And it's the same with stage anxiety, you know, performing and dealing with that and learning how to control that and breathe and whatever. It's coming, you know, it's facing your demons, facing your fears, for sure.
When you were, so back for young Martina, when you were little, did you have any kind of like, I don't know, supernatural or mystical experiences as a young girl?
Yeah, I think I always like wished for that. I used to like try to will myself to do like telekinesis and stuff, or like fly. I really wanted to do that so bad. But yeah, I mean, other than just really try to use my brain and like really, really will something, I don't think I really experienced anything supernatural other than just, I think, a very natural thing, which is to kind of think about more existential things and like, what is the purpose? I mean, I remember being like 12 years old, wondering what the purpose is, you know, on this earth, and what is my purpose? And, you know, we're all going to die, and, you know, I love my siblings, and like, what are we doing? Like, what's the point? So I think that's definitely the start of Lady Alchemy and, you know, exploring all those deeper things. Yeah.
For the listeners who don't know what Lady Alchemy is, could you talk about that, or Nish explain it?
Sure. So, I mean, yeah, with the start of like thinking about those kinds of things is what kind of opened my eyes when I don't know how I first heard of it, but I knew I got into it through Leonardo da Vinci and Isaac Newton. I studied math, I love art, and it was like these really great minds were obsessed with this concept. There has to be something to it, you know? So the more I researched it, and it sounds mystical and awesome, you know, very comic book-like. So you start researching it, and it leads you down the path of like inner alchemy, like Carl Jung, and understanding yourself and your inner person, and, you know, finding that gold and stuff. So that gets really exciting. But then I have like the little girl stuff that I like too, about performing and all that. And when I started doing burlesque and performing, I felt like I was missing a piece of the puzzle. And I realized that I would be happy if I can combine my like nerdy alchemy self with the performing. And it just clicked that I can be Lady Alchemy, and I can use alchemical archetypes and these deeper kind of meanings, and to explore like on stage and in more aesthetic ways, these kinds of concepts, not just have like another pretty picture to model or another pretty dance, you know, like, oh, that was pretty, or that was sexy. Like, and it has other layers of like, no, you may just thought it was really cool and pretty or whatever, but if you understand the concept of it behind it, there's a layer that relates to alchemy and archetypes, and that's what Lady Alchemy is.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I like what you do with Lady Alchemy. Is it's symbolically rich, and you really you deliver with that.
Thank you.
So back to young you, with your dreams. What was your experience with the dream world as far back as you can recall? Do you remember early dreams?
Yeah, I can remember an early dream in childhood of my father, who was estranged from me, and he was a really tall man, is a tall man, like 6'4" or something, 6'5", and I guess being a little girl in my dreams. I also remember going to the zoo with him, probably, but I remember seeing him walking among giraffes.
Oh.
So I remember that. So it's my estranged father walking among giraffes, this tall man. And yeah, and then I remember being very young, probably 10, and I remember lucid dreaming. And that was an interesting feeling. And I want to get into that a little bit later on too, if you want,
Yes.
like after the
Yeah.
young Martina. But yeah, I remember from a young age lucid dreaming. I don't know if maybe that answers your previous question, if there's anything supernatural, but I think that's definitely a powerful thing to tap into. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I, just to be clear on supernatural, because a lot of people are really not liking that term these days. But
Hmm.
what I mean by that is just an amped up, it's like super saturated color, right? It's
Mhm.
natural, but it's got that extra to it.
Yeah.
So it's
So yeah,
weird how,
probably lucid dreaming counts as that. Yeah.
yeah,
Because I think
absolutely.
some people never have.
Right. We do this. We talk to people, all kinds of people,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. A lot of people have never had a lucid dream, or they don't think they have. This is the thing, Martina. I know they have. They just don't
Huh.
recall it.
Right. The recall. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what you were lucid dreaming when you were young?
Yeah.
So, what was the very first time you got into that space where you're like, "Oh, I'm in a dream. This is a dream." Do you recall that?
Yeah. I remember changing the colors of the sky with my will. And I remember realizing that I was in a dream. You know what I did? It's just so weird. I don't know, for some reason I've always been like picked on, and there's always like some bitch picking on me or something, right? And I remember, and I was so passive, and I still am, and stuff like that, and shy. But in my dream, when I realized I was dreaming, for some reason I like decided I could pull this girl's hair. I was like, it's a dream.
You could
Like,
fight
fuck
back.
this bitch. I can pull her hair here. It's a dream. So I remember doing that.
That's awesome. And she was picking on you?
Yeah, I mean, she was probably just some bitch that was mean to me. And I was like,
You were able to, but this is a good thing. And psychologically, it's a great thing because
Yeah.
she's in a way terrorizing you. And then you all of a sudden have this awake moment where you realize you can turn the tables here. Now you have a sense
that's what it was like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's an interesting point that you just tapped into. I never thought about it, because that is a motif, I feel like, of my life, is trying to prove the mean girls wrong, the haters wrong, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That I constantly feel like I have something to prove, and the mean people, and then I want to turn the tables on them. And I kind of like that. I like movies like that. In the 90s, I love, what was it? That it's the classic teen movie, and she like takes her hair out and she's like, she's all that.
Oh yeah.
Like that's like my movie, where it's like tables reversed and the nerd gets, to be the babe.
Yeah, the underdog. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's interesting you tapped into that. I never really thought of that. I never put that together.
Well, it says a lot about you, because even though you do have people come for you, and obviously it was playing out in the ethers as well, you're not a pushover when it gets down to it. And there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
So back with this dreaming, so early you, and this may have changed, and if it's changed, we'll go into that. But the earlier you, so let's say like the first half of your life, what did the dreamscape look like in general for you? So I'm looking for things like, was it black and white? Is it color? Do you smell? Do you taste? Can you read books and words?
It was color, definitely very vivid color, especially when I was lucid, and I could change the skyline to this magnificent, what is it called? Sunset. But I do also remember one dream around that same time, young child. I always think about this too, but there was a cheese Danish, and I was like, oh my God, the cheese Danish looks so good. And I really wanted the cheese Danish, and I got to the cheese Danish, and it was like going into my mouth, and I woke up.
You couldn't have it.
Yeah. And so it's funny how like my relationship with cheese Danish is to this day.
Yeah,
It's like when I used to have
it's
sex dreams as a child, as a kid, before I ever had sex. Right as I was about to have it, I'd wake up.
Right, right. Wow.
I can profess my love of the cheese Danish. It's the Ukraine in me. It's for real.
It's so funny.
Oh yeah. It's a thing. So all right. So with the vivid, also, have you been able to your awareness read in dreams? When you encounter
Good
text,
question.
is it writing or is it symbols? Have you noticed it?
I haven't noticed.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe you will now, though, that we're talking about
Yeah.
it.
It's probably something that'll help get lucid if I focus in and go, can I read that?
Yeah. Well, because you actually have to kind of focus. Script is very weird. And all the people we've talked to and I've talked to, the reading part is it's kind of a very rare. I don't hear a lot of people saying they can. So
yeah, I can't recall a moment where I've needed to read something in a dream.
And then what about, have you had experiences where you have a sensate where you can, where you smell or taste? Besides that cheese Danish, which you didn't get to have.
Yeah, which it didn't even taste. Yeah. Ooh, excuse me. Oh my God. Just had a drink. Oh my God. Wow. And this is all audio. Great.
Lady alchemy.
Thursday is gonna be yeah. It's easier when they can see me. I could let that slip by. No, it's something about drinking and talking. It makes you burpy. It's weird. Yeah. I want to say yes, that I have smelt and heard. I don't know if it was because of my real life surroundings.
Yeah.
But I feel like I want to say yes, but I can't think of an actual dream.
That answers it, though, if you got a sense there. And then also, so this is a general question. We'll hone in on stuff, but in general, how often do you come out of dream space? And this includes lucid dreaming and astral projection, all that stuff,
right?
With a mood where it's actually you're going to bring a mood into the day now.
Yeah. I mean, like, are you talking about even like the moments where you like just wake up and you have like the bit like you're still?
Say you had like a bad dream and you wake up and you can't shake it, and it's kind of created that space around you in the day.
Yeah, that's happened for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've been checking more in with moods with people and dream space. There's something really juicy there to explore, and I'm not sure what it is yet. It's a thread I'm following, so it's good to know. Okay, so back to your lucid dreaming experience. How old were you when you first started that?
Yeah, so I think that was like 10-ish or something, 10 or 11.
Okay, yeah, that is young.
Yeah, probably 10. I feel like.
And so I think did you mention you fly?
Yes, I was flying in that, and that's, I think, was one of the first. I mean, that was something that I wanted to do as a child. When you asked about my supernatural ability, I definitely sat there trying to will myself to fly and jump off the sofa. But I noticed when I was lucid, that was something I chose to do as well.
And when you fly in dreams, how do you do it? Everyone's a little different. Are you like Superman? Are you like Glinda?
It was like Peter Pan, where I had to like think of something hard enough to be able to do it. And there were times where like the flying like wasn't like, it was weak, and I like was kind of sinking, kind of like a balloon that's like losing its helium or something. And so there were times where it was difficult and I had to drag myself to fly, but it was like something about an emotion or a thinking and like feeling something in order to like get that to happen, something from within.
Yeah. What about, so when you want in scenes in a dream, and specifically if the more lucid the better when we're talking about this stuff, when you want to go from one place to another, or somehow maybe not consciously, but you are in one scene and then you're in another scene? Do you often just appear in the next scene, or do you have to make a movement like flying or walking?
Yeah, I did some reading on lucid dreaming at one point, probably like 2014 or something. And sorry, I'm just still recovering from the flu, so I get a little sniffly too. So this makes me sound really sexy this to me right now.
You are gorgeous, though. Too bad people can't see you.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was trying to go lucid. Now the thing is, I've always really liked to smoke marijuana, and I was doing some magical work, and they started talking about dreams and everything, and of course the dream journal, which I have done also back in like 2008. So if you want to get back to that dream journal and that experience, we can get into that. But 2014, I wanted to get into some magical depth, and the whole dreaming thing was a block because I smoke a lot of marijuana, and like I don't really remember my dreams. Like I don't know. I think it's something about the like REM sleep or something, if we even get into it, or if we get enough efficient sleep was when you smoke, or what it is. But the more lucid you are in real life, the more lucid you are in your dream state, and there's like a connection, and I don't know, marijuana doesn't help. So I got some choline bitartrate. Do you know what that is? It's like some supplement. It's like a B vitamin supplement. It's called choline bitartrate.
Choline is a extract from a plant.
Yeah, I think it like naturally can be in like egg yolks and stuff. I don't know how much, but it's a supplement. It's very cheap. I got a giant bag for like $9, and it's water soluble, and just make little shots of it. Just tastes kind of sour, and it definitely helps you with like being lucid, like your brain activity, and getting things done and having high energy. And I swear to God, that night I lucid dreams. And I started lucid dreaming. And what I did was I was seeing a guy at the time, and there was big drama involved. He was like some actor, and there was like some, tabloid thing, and some ex-wife drama. It was like this whole thing. And I wanted to be able to tell him something, and I decided in my lucid dream to go to his place. And I was reading up on all this stuff in my spiritual journey. So I was like kind of well-versed in like, if I go like lucid, what to do. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm lucid, and I like was like, go to Josh's house. And I like teleported there. So yeah, that's my long story to tell you that I teleported there.
So with the teleportation though, with this kind of thing, which I love, have you been able to get any validation from others having done that before?
Right. So I also was reading about this, and they say, from what I read at the time of doing this, that unless the other person is lucid as well in the dream at the same time, they're going to appear a bit off, like kind of like drunk or something, but you can still kind of possibly tap into their like, subconscious or something. But I wasn't strong enough, because lucid is so tricky. You could lose it. Something happens where you lose it. You slip out of it.
Yes.
It's such a bizarre thing, because how can you just forget in this instant that you were dreaming, or like what you're doing? Like you just slip back into this really weird dream state, and you get tossed back into that world and whatever's happening in it. But yeah, so I lost it. I wasn't able to hold on to it for too long to be able to talk to him or anything.
But it was good. I'm wondering okay, so yes, on lucid dreaming, it is weird. And this is something I always talk about, is the idea of how I can, at this point, like you, I've been lucid dreaming a very long time, and I can find myself going lucid, and all of a sudden, like the weirdest thing will pop me out. And
Right.
it's like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, look at the ground. I'm going lucid, and then boom, I'm out again. And sometimes I get jerked right back into my body, like awake.
Yes.
All the way out.
Yeah, sometimes that was also another thing from what I read, that is sometimes you get just so lucid when you realize that you're like lucid, when you go, oh shit, I'm dreaming, it just makes you become so lucid that you wake yourself up. And it's like you have to learn the balance of being able to control it. So yeah, that's kind of what I was excited to be able to do and take the choline trait and stuff. It was like, let's like go lucid and explore this astral whole world going on. It's like The Sims in real life, you know?
It totally reminds me of that, or like Second Life. It is so that when you get into a space, I can't think of his name right now. My friend Kristen Ling is taking a class with some famous dude that is teaching lucid dreaming and using the analogy of gaming.
Wow, yeah, see, that's interesting. That's totally it. Yes.
Isn't it though? I mean, it's a perfect overlay because it's so similar to that.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I'm not a gamer. I haven't played a fucking video game since like 1996. Like, that's not me, but I do understand. That's why I said the reference of Sims. It's like, okay, I get it. Like, I've seen this thing that people get into their own world on this console or whatever, or this game, and that is very much like lucid dreaming. Yeah, there can be a whole other like world where you can like fly, you can like teleport to another part of the country, you can like communicate with people. You can find like your, I don't know, spiritual guidance. You can, I don't know, there's demons out there probably too.
Not in Second Life, you can't find any spiritual guidance.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. In the astral world is what I mean, but it's a more exciting video game, let's just say.
Yeah, but it is filled with demons. You were right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is demons.
Note, exactly. With that, have you experienced any of the dark entities and stuff out there during your forays?
I mean, I'm not sure. Not when astral working, I don't think. I mean, I've definitely had negative dreaming experiences, but I don't think I've come face to face with like an actual spiritual guidance or like proper demon. I don't think, you know. My dream journal back in 2008 that I was talking about. Sorry, now I'm smoking and I'm recovering. Yeah, this is the life, you know. I'll do what I want.
That's right.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, again, starting some spiritual journey, and that's what they advise you to do. Start tapping into your subconscious and stuff, and dream journals. And I was maintaining a dream journal, and they were various things that were random every day. Okay, I was being chased. Okay, something happened. Okay, my like sibling died, or like something. You know, every day was like something that didn't really mean anything on its own, but over time when I looked at the dream journal, I was like, oh, these are all really negative, you know? And I was like, I think like my subconscious is telling me like that I'm unsettled, you know? I'm unresolved in something. I feel like a dark shadow or cloud or something is hovering. So that's kind of what I got from that. That was my negative demons of sorts, but not an actual dark entity or anything.
How often, so like still like kind of the first half of your life, how often would you have what I guess we would consider nightmares or night terrors or uncomfortable bad dreams? Were they a thing for you or were they rare? I guess is a better way to look at it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they happened, but I don't recall anything that's really traumatized me. I can't really think. It was basically just the father dream with the giraffes and the lucid dreaming and stuff.
But the father dream didn't sound, that sounded rather nice.
It was weird because, you know, I mean, I was raised, I don't know, it's like this whole story, but I was raised with like, oh, your father's a bad guy. If you see him, he's a bad guy. Like, you know, he's not to be around. So there was some sort of like negative kind of energy about that. It's hard to describe, you know? And it's like, you're an innocent young kid. You're like, I was like, only if you know?
Yeah.
Like very young. So it was like, having these like told that it's a bad person, and then there was like this dream that involved him, and it was just something mysterious about the dream that was very like, it wasn't dark, but it was very like odd to me. I don't know.
Yeah. It is interesting imagery and everything in it.
They were like swaying in like the wind, and I don't know, it was like fire or something. I don't know. I don't understand it.
And how were you 10ish or younger when that one?
Yeah, I feel like I was 10ish or
Yeah.
younger. Yeah.
Because 10ish is when you said like the lucid dream
Yeah.
was coming on.
Yeah, it was in the same room in the same house that we were at that time, so probably 10ish.
So what about also in dreaming? Are you one of these people that you can fall into dream easily, or do they, I guess this is more, Martina, this is more recall. How have you always been with, because we're all dreaming, how have you been with the recall in general in your life?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's the weed that is really bad for recall. So I tend to not really remember dreams because of the smoking stuff. But when I have a normal recall, it would be, I think, the typical, you wake up, you remember a lot of details, and you can start to slip away. The more you think about it, the more it goes away.
But before the weed, when you were younger, were you dreaming a lot that you were able to recall then?
Yeah, and I remember like testing myself about it too, because what did I read one time that it was like you dream like 7 different dreams in one night or something. There's like a lot of like totally different
landscape.
Like stories.
Yeah.
And like if you do remember a dream, it's like 1 out of like the 7 that you're remembering that you dreamed, since usually the most recent one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I used to try to test myself, and I think I used to remember a few dreams of one night, because you go into different stories in your head. So I think I used to recall them. I mean, I remember being when I was in school and having like dreams, telling my siblings something, and it was like this whole recall kind of like scenario. So I used to be able to recall. Yeah, I mean, and I still can when I dream. Yeah.
When you were younger, were people, were you able to talk about dreams? Were people talking about dreams?
Yeah.
I never know. I mean, some households it's not like a thing, especially depending on the religion. You know, it's like the dreams are kind of like the tooth fairy.
My mom believes that her dreams are pretty prophetic. She's had a few major things in her life where she kind of dreamed it.
So on that note, with prophetic dreams and those kinds of things, especially with the lucidity, and we're not done with lucidity, but we never are. How have you experienced dreams that are dreaming true, or little bits that bleed through from the dream realm to this realm? And sometimes those can play out in things like deja vu.
Yeah, deja vu is so strange. I wish I could understand that a little bit more. But I don't know. I mean, there's also, again, something that I read. I'm not sure if it was young or some other basic thing about dreaming, but there's like 4 things that dreams are, and I know we don't really know much about them still to this day.
That's why they're fascinating to talk about.
But there are some basic kind of concepts of like, the unconscious at work, trying to communicate with you, and then there's like a few other points, and then the other one is like the most basic level is just like random neurons firing. So I think there's like a range of that going on at different times. I don't know if it's like all purely like magical insights we need to like understand, or if there's like a mixture of neurons firing, or sometimes something prophetic, sometimes something magical. It's such a strange thing, and we don't really understand. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's a mixture of all those things. So sometimes it shouldn't have an effect, but it does emotionally. It feels so real.
Oh yeah. It's all that's at play, which is what makes the idea and the concept alone, just the concept, and verbalizing the narratives around the concept so juicy. But I'm wondering, like, as far as precognition stuff, have you had dreams that came true?
No, I personally haven't. No, I think mine are more esoteric, like very obtuse that I have to look at, like the not being secure, having something
Yeah.
unsettled in my psyche.
Also, so with that idea and moving into lucidity again, when you have that, actually, so give us an example of when you have like when you're at the height of lucidity and when you're able to really be the architect within your dream and move stuff around. Are you able to do it? So you did give us that example with changing the sky and all that.
Mhm.
Are you often able to do what you want, or do you let the lucidity just unfold and you let things play out? How much control do you actually allow yourself to have?
I usually immediately try to control
Yeah.
when I go lucid. I immediately try to change something or do what I want to do. I go, oh shit, I'm gonna do what I want. Like now is the time. Like here's my moment. Okay, like we did it, guys. Like I'm in the matrix. You know.
I love that. You'd be surprised at how many people do not want to control and they just let it play out.
I mean, that's interesting too. I mean, maybe that's the way to find out more about you, to find your guide, to do, whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's the right channel to go.
Oh, I don't think there are any rights and wrongs
Yeah.
personally. That's where I live, in that in between.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong. It's just a matter of how you function and how you're getting about.
Yeah,
But
I feel like I'm on a mission, like to do something when I'm in that state. Like, what's the important mission that I need to accomplish?
Oh, that's interesting. This might sound like a left-wing question. Like, do you have military family?
No. No idea.
Because it is like the mission thing makes me think of all kinds of like super soldier kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm into that.
Yeah.
I could see myself as one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Lady Alchemy kind of is.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, there was like some weird connection I wanted to have also with like this Nephilim bloodline thing with the like government, like CIA shit. Like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
haven't worked all that in. I worked the bloodline thing. It's my book, and some like elites and world leaders that have the same bloodline, but I think the government's up to something more about that. But yeah.
Well, see, this is what's interesting with you in your lucid dreams is the fact that you say a mission is very right down that alley. And the fact that you get in and you're lucid and you are in control and you're doing stuff, that's very telling, really. And we talk to a lot of people about this stuff. So I think that that's very telling, and there's possibility there.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I need to formulate a plan better of like what to do exactly when I'm lucid. Usually it's a selfish thing, like I want to tell like my ex something or something, stupid.
Well, that's not selfish, because that becomes, I mean, it may feel selfish, but those kinds of exercises can lead to very powerful things, because when someone's like, whoa, they call you up the next day or you get some sort of message and like, you came to me in a dream and you said this and that and this, and for myself, I just I stay silent. I just allow people to let it be what it is. But it's a validation for you personally to know that your lucidity and your forays in that escape are working.
Right.
And all it takes is like that one elephant, right? The white elephant in the room. Once you see it, once one thing has proven there's a possibility, then you've broken the glass window, you've broken the glass ceiling, you've broken the glass house, and you're out. So that's all it takes, in my opinion and in my experience. So saying keep pushing on that.
That's interesting.
So what about like full on out of body experiences? Like is the old vernacular, the old language is astral traveling.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I was like reading about astral projection. I've tried to like meditate and sit there and basically kind of, what is it, sensory deprivation type kind of thing, everything out. But I haven't got there, I don't think. I feel like something happened fairly recently where it felt kind of close. Maybe more so when I took like, I don't know, mushrooms or something in my life, but I don't think that counts.
It's a portal.
Yeah, like that's probably was more the time, but no, that I'm like, it's a bit more difficult for me to do that. I think it's really fascinating stuff though. I'm really interested in it. I love that movie. What is it called? The Men Who Stare at Goats. What?
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah, I love, like, again, there's like the CIA government stuff involved in
Yes.
that kind of technologies or whatever.
It's there. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, and you don't have to wait to go into sleep to astral travel. I've found, this is my own personal experience, but if I get, and this is where the devil's lettuce, which is what I call the weed, is helpful for me, is I go into a deep meditation with the devil's lettuce in as dark of a room as possible with as little outside interference, and I allow myself to get into the vibratory state through meditation with the aid of the devil's lettuce, and then step out of the body. So my experiences of being out of body via dream have been harder that route than actually meditating into it. But meditation is a form of active sleep. If you think about it, you're putting yourself, you're quieting yourself, you're going into stillness.
Yeah, your brain goes into different states. There's like alpha, whatever, different states.
Yes. So, but that, and so I'm just saying, the devil's lettuce does work under that circumstance.
That's interesting. Huh.
And
I should try that more often. But yeah,
girl, I think you should. That might be a way.
Sit back and meditate. You know what? It honestly would probably be good for me in my life. A lot of stress is going on and whatever. And it's like, people say like, oh, well, do you pray or whatever? And the other day I did, because prayer, meditation, same thing, because there is something important about just stopping everything. Just stop your brain. Just stop everything for a minute and just like breathe and calm down and just like don't think, don't plan. Don't sort anything out. Sorry, I'm in New York, it happens. And people are gonna hear that and it's like but yeah, so and it's like, that's a really important thing actually. I think that it is good to stop and tune all that out and get to a place really healthy for you.
When you're stressed, and I know stress, definitely. When things are rough, how do things play out for you in the dreamscape? Is it something you notice? Do you notice the difference?
Again, my issues with recall lately have been pretty bad. But something I have noticed recently with my stress is that, like, do you ever just wake up like feeling like you were hit by a truck, and then it's like but the rest was still good because you were in an altered state, and when you wake up and you remember your life and you remember where you're at and you remember what your issues are, you're like, oh, you're like, okay, this is my life, this sucks, and you're like, oh man, can I just go back where I forgot about life for a second, like in that dream state. I don't know, I mean, that also was like that when my little sister, was diagnosed with leukemia, and she's like much better now, she's fine now, something just to keep tabs on. But when it was like in the hospital with the like, fucking the whole shebang, the, what is it called, chemo, like the whole thing, in the moment, it's like, one of those same situations where your sleep state was actually one of like an escape, even if you didn't remember it. Even if you just like went to sleep and you woke up, like there's like that moment where like you forgot for a bit and you were like in that like awake state, and then you came to and remembered what reality was, and you're just like, fuck. Yeah.
There's a lot. So there have been studies on people that have been in extreme circumstances, or even just extreme circumstances. So shelf that for a minute, but even have just gone to prison under whatever condition and are forced into those kinds of lifestyles where they have to, there's a lot of self time and but where they can't go anywhere. And these people, when applying these ideas of getting out any way they can, have a high level of astral projection out of their spaces, and their recall, basically it's like, you know, extreme remote viewing, their ability to see and be out and do things in the world is uncanny. And so I've always found that interesting. And I thought, what if when we're going through times of hardship, of stress, you know, what if we apply that same principle, even though you can go outside and you can go to the deli, albeit New York's changed.
Yes.
And maybe you won't be able to in a couple of weeks, but without your papers and your passes and all that stuff that's coming down. But if we apply that principle, there might be something bigger going on where we can escape into another layer of consciousness, and through the other layer of consciousness, maybe it's possible to change what's going on here. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to that idea of it being like the video game, The Matrix, like this alternate reality that we can go to. And I mean, that's wild if we can tap into that, you know?
Yeah.
What if we can, like, I don't know, have some sort of program or weird science where, like, we're able to control that lucid state, you know, that, like, altered astral world or something. And it's like, it's real life. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's the question, Martina.
We could see loved ones, you know, we could see loved ones, we could see, you know, communicate with
people. We could meet up with them.
Yeah.
And actually have a conscious experience with them like we do in what we think is this reality.
Right. That's wild. I mean, damn.
It's something, and it's something to work for. And that's the thing. This is something that everybody has access to, and nobody has the keys to the kingdom on this. So this is equal opportunity. Yeah. This is straight up for anyone. And that's one of the reasons why I've always liked the idea of dreaming and what's possible there. There seems to be more going on. And so with that, though, what do you think? Why do you think this experience we're having, even though we've introduced the idea of the sim reality, why do you think this feels like the space where we're calling real? This is real. Where all this bullshit's going on and people are fighting over stupid skin level stuff. And yet we have these abilities, you know, as a lucid dreamer, that are remarkable. And all it takes is one lucid dream to know that there's something going on.
Yeah.
That you have more abilities than you think you do. Just for people that don't understand and haven't had a conscious lucid dream.
I mean, I feel like this is the real place, but we can have an effect like in this like matrix, you know? And there is
what makes this real?
I know what you're saying, but it's like, I don't know, there's like certain rules for in the altered state where it's like, they're not even rules, I don't know, they're just like tests, I guess. Like things don't make sense, like time doesn't make sense in the altered state.
Right.
And, like,
that's one of the things.
Yeah, like time doesn't make sense. So, like that's the way you can like know when you're in the altered state or whatever. And like things don't happen like as mundanely. Like let's say if we have to go to like the bank or something, it's like you don't show the walking or driving to the bank or whatever. It's just like next thing you know in your dream you're like at the bank. Like there was no process in between. Like so there's like these really weird like things that happen in the altered state or in the dream state. And that's kind of how you know when it's like real or not. But I still feel like it's a place where we can kind of do things. But like, I don't know, we have to understand it better. I don't know. It's weird. but I feel like it can affect this world. But like right now, this is like the main one. This is the one we can control the most. You know, it's like it makes sense the most to us in our brains.
But in a way, it seems like we have the least amount of control here too.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean, because when you're like lucid, then you can just like literally control everything and fly, and like teleport or whatever. But like, there's a consistency, and you can like lose it when you're in the altar. It's like we're not strong enough. I'm not strong enough. I don't know who's strong enough to like legit go in and just be like, yeah. But I think have people done that? Like, aren't there like some people that like really can get into the lucid state and just like have a whole other like experience in there?
Oh yeah, there are lots of stories out there. There are lots of stories, and there are lots of stories with a variety of people with different socioeconomical backgrounds, with different ethnicities, monks in the
Right.
Himalayas,
Right.
you know, people over here in Portland. I mean, just like people in remote Romania. There's
Is there like
something
a whole
that's
cult community on like astral people?
well, there's some key that unlocks this deeper or higher, I'm not sure what it is, layer of consciousness where they're able to tap in and really push the idea of what's going on, where the waking life that we call it is
Yeah.
actually the dreaming life, and it's only a fractal of the real life you're having somewhere else.
Yeah.
Again, and that kind of pushes into that sim thing.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, we tell ourselves here, but we also tell ourselves in some dreams. This has been my experience. I have been in some dreams. Every dream has its rules. There are still rules. And the way I know this is, especially if I'm lucid, is when I encounter something that's not me and I can't make it move, right?
Mm.
Someone comes at me and then I can't do anything about it. It's not a part of me. It's something else. It's somebody else. And
Mm.
so I realized at that point, wow, this isn't all my world. There are other things inhabiting this space.
Mm.
And so with that this idea of waking reality that we're in, we have somehow come under some deep hypnotism to convince ourselves that this is really real. And it's really real because I can bleed, and you know, I have these stories around me of my heritage and where I'm going and my job and all that. This stuff that falls away when you die anyway, that doesn't mean anything when you die, right? And so that's kind of where we leap forward anyway with this idea of how real this is. When you die, again, we don't really know what's going on there. This is another leveling field for everyone. So death doesn't care what your titles are, who you are, what you look like, all that stuff. It's just another state of lucidity.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's where I'm asking you is like, so let's springboard into that idea and maybe work through that. What do you think death is?
Oh God. Wow.
I'm taking you there, girl.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things like, are you familiar with, I forget who originally created this concept but I know of it from Carl Sagan. Oh my God, these motorcycles. Hold on, I'll give him a second. Yep. Okay. All right. Maybe they're stopped at a stoplight. Okay. I don't know who. I learned of it from Carl Sagan, which is like the Flatlands or something flat world.
Yeah, Flatland. Flatland is the model of him showing two-dimensional reality.
Yeah, so it's like this concept of like a 2D world, and when a 3-dimensional object kind of enters that, what their perspective is on that, and like how do they explain what up is in a 2D world, you know, when there's only left and right. So I feel like these kinds of existential things, like I do want to understand it, and that's why I love alchemy and, you know, philosophy and theology and all sorts of stuff. But at the same time, there's like only so much that we can like properly understand. And in the magical world, it's like the 26-digit letter of God. It's in Hebrew or something. It's like the unplayable.
216.
216. Okay, yeah, that. And
I appreciate that you said 26 though, because that's a very significant number.
Yeah, I feel like there's something about 26 too, but yeah. And yeah, and it's just like there's something that's just like uncomprehendable about like that true word of like name of God, you know, like, and there's like the same thing of trying to understand something in another dimension, you know. It's just so, it's something that like we can't comprehend in this dimension, in this 3 dimensions, and it's like, how do we explain another dimension in this dimension? It's like
that
incomprehensible.
Yeah, that video was trying to demonstrate the 4th dimension to a 3-dimensional person. So
exactly.
The same analogy applies. I put the link in chat and the show notes for everyone, by the way.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's kind of how I feel about like death and God and that kind of stuff, is in a sense like, well, there's no really point in trying to understand it in this dimension, you know, like I know it's there and I know it exists. I don't even know if I want to bother trying to understand it though, you know. Sometimes I'm like, I'll deal with that later.
Yeah.
But sometimes I want to dive deep into it, you know. It's an interesting concept, but that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm like, I don't know, man, it's incomprehensible. I don't get it.
I love the fodder. I really do. I like getting lost and all that. You know, one of the reasons why though is because I think some of this stuff is, at least where we are now, unprovable, and that makes it equal opportunity, right? We all of our experiences become valuable in this.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's, I mean, it's a great concept, because that's something I put in one of my early alchemy journals when I started doing some studying, was that there is something about, I mean, not to be like, oh, I'm like Da Vinci, here's my journal. It's like, you know what I mean? It's going to be treasured in the works of psychology in the future. No, but it is true. Like us doing our, you know, making notes on our dreaming and like astral work, or exploring these things, trying to test them out. I mean, trying to understand the rules, trying to understand the methods of, you know, knowing when you're dreaming and how these like rules work and how things function and how you can kind of tap into that. Like we are doing the groundwork for it, whether or not it's ever going to be, you know, go past this and now, it doesn't really matter. Like we are trying to like kind of make ground with that. It's definitely unexplored.
Yeah, and that's what's exciting, especially when we're looking at how really, you know, because globally we're all having a big shift here. Whatever the fuckery is, and however people want to unpack it, that's another story. That's a different show. The point of this is that we're all being faced with a collective shadow. And at the same time, our own shadows, as we have to process everything on a personal level, but we're going through it collectively. So there's all of that going on, and that's why there's all this juicy opportunity to kind of push into the unknown and into the mysteries, and start to question the ideas around what really is tangible, what's important, what's actually important. There's so much BS in our worlds that we adorn ourselves with, that it's not important really in the end, and we become weighted down with all these ideas and stories and all the drama. And so it's a fun place to take the consciousness, and I think the act of doing that then somehow pushes us in this awakened world that we're having into a new space. It raises our frequency.
Yeah, what you're saying reminds me, actually, I took a little bit of notes before, because I was like, oh shit, we're talking about dreams, like, okay, you know, I was thinking. And I did do an alchemy stream a few months back, and it had some really interesting things, and one of them was the four ordeals. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, the four ordeals. And I knew in there something had to do with dreams, but basically it's like when you start tapping into like trying to like the alchemy work, like trying to understand, refine yourself and your spirit and like your akash, your inner self, your breath, like your inner ego, whatever, come face to face with your like ego. You go through like psychological difficulties, and it's like meant to be like tests. And like, when you go through like a spiritual path, it's not always like ecstasy. It's like, okay, now I'm getting enlightened, everything's so great. It's like, no, it's actually the opposite. You go through like ordeals, like you go through like tests, and those tests are meant to be like, now how do you want to like deal with this? Do you deal with like the element of fire or like water, or like how, like what is in this, like what's going on? Which, I should take my own goddamn advice. I got a lot of ordeals to go through. I might go think about that later if I need fire or water. But and what does it say here? We start to face ourselves. It is a difficult process. We get experiences in the astral plane. So they have these correlations with like dreams. I mean, it's really interesting stuff. I could always link it to you guys. But
Please do.
yeah, so it's like the four deals, like the different elements, and like each one has like some sort of thing about it. 'Cause you know how the elements have attributes, like
Yes,
magic,
yeah.
all that stuff, and they have their own like things. So when you kind of start to understand that, and then like certain things in dreams will happen with, it's like raining, or if it's raining but not on you, or like whatever. It's like, and there's like I don't know, just like things and issues that are happening in real life, and how it deals with like how it can manifest in dreams. It was a really interesting thing. But yeah, that's kind of what you reminded me about, like being able to affect change in like the real world and like the astral world, and how it can have an effect. Like I do see the symbolisms in that sometimes, and being able to kind of like manifest change and in the waking life is what you say it, not real life.
Well, there's so many times there's all kinds of exercises that people have out there. There's so many. In the dream, one of them is to look at your hands and to get lucidity.
Yeah.
Out in waking life, one of the I personally, this is where I think it's more relevant, because it'll awaken that side, is while we're here in this waking life, to question whether we're dreaming is important here, because then it starts to click in there.
Yes. That's one of them.
Right?
Yeah. Am I dreaming? You ask yourself that. Yeah,
Yes.
look at your hands too. I think there's something about the number of fingers.
There's
right?
there's all kinds with that, but you can just, if you throw up a pen and it doesn't go down, well, then that's when you're like, holy shit, I'm dreaming.
Yeah. It's something
And you didn't
similar.
realize, because it's like a trap.
It's something similar to in Inception, right? Didn't they have something? What did they call it? Where it's like an object?
Like a ladle? Was that the dreidel or whatever?
Yeah, but they called it something where it was like an anchor or something. What was it?
It was a totem or a fetish
totem.
or
a ticker or what?
There was another word.
Totem.
Yeah, I think it was totem too. And totem too.
But yeah, that's like something to kind of know when you're in, like have like your own like totem, like you can make one up for yourself. But those are the common ones, right? Yeah.
I totally forgot. That movie's great for those kinds of things. I find myself, because I always have a pen next to me, I'm always doing stuff with writing stuff. And oftentimes I just throw the pen up or a pencil, but that's right. Inception was great for that.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a really big, during the time, but like it's pretty good if you look back at it that way through like lucid dreaming and stuff, like that lens. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I think with all stuff that comes out vis-a-vis the mills and through art, we're both artists and we work with symbols. This stuff's important. This stuff's seeded out. And some of it's, of course, propaganda and out there to control us.
Yeah.
Because why? This is a great power. Why not use it? It's all comes down to the fruit that you are. I squeeze a lemon, I get lemon juice. So there's bad fruit out there doing bad things. and
Yep.
and so you're going to get that. But other people that want to bring in beauty and whatever your vibe is, when we start working with symbols and we bring symbols forth into this state, which is one of the things you do through Lady Alchemy, and I certainly do it in my work, in my time arts work especially. This is how we can communicate with people on deeper levels and get that which cannot be reduced into words out, get concepts out, maybe things that people can't see but they understand.
Yeah, and they're like archetypes, like it's in them whether they know about it or not. It's like so innate in humanity that like they respond to it on a like visceral level.
It's the real level of communication, in my opinion, symbols.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what like music and dance does too. I mean, it can so quickly be just like, you know, it's like the whole tree of life thing and the chakras, right? It's like what is it, the Malkuth, the kingdom, like the root chakra is like the most basic one is like physical sexual energy, right? And it's like that's kind of where people can kind of take my work is just like purely like burlesque stripper type like energy. And then there's like, if you really understand like trance and dance and music and like visual, it's like it can be on a like really spiritual like level. I mean, you know, I've had like straight women that are just like, I was mesmerized, like I was in a trance, like I was in full-on trance, you know, watching you. And it's like, thank you, you get it. Yeah, you get it.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it's not sexual. She's not trying to like hit me up. She's a straight woman. She's like, I get it.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm strictly dickly and I love your work.
Well, thank you. Yeah, see, it's like my main fans. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We can appreciate each other in the world. I don't know. And, you know, this is another thing that always reminds me of some of the fuckery around us is that in this waking world where sometimes we feel limited by the limitations of others.
Yeah.
And how they're pushing those onto us.
Yeah.
In weird ways, through judgments, through cattiness, through backstabbing.
Through their own lack of elevation, you know, and I don't want to be like that. It's not like I'm above them in any way, but it's just like some people, like I say, they're stuck in that level of, you know, existence and that wavelength, that like pattern. And it's like, it's sad, but we don't like view the same situation the same way, you know, there's like deeper things going on.
Right. Well, and so then if we move that into the dream idea, there's a lot of people that talk about the lower realms. When you get out, like the out of body experience, there's always like all this talk about the lower realms are where like the archons or the nasties are, right? And you've got to change your elevation through frequency to get into a different space from those. And I wonder, this is where I'm kind of going with this, is there's a question here. I wonder, how does one get to that space in the waking world? So when you look around and there's all this funk, especially, and so this becomes a bigger idea, okay? This is a bigger idea because look at all the funk around us in the world. And how do we, as individuals, try and shift this frequency out? Because it's funky. I don't like this frequency at all. I'm not having it. And yet we're all here in the mucky muck. We're all here in the mud.
To me, and this is what like a big thing in my comic book is as well, it's my duality. I mean, I don't know where you live or whatever, but when I'm in the city, I mean, like my recalibrating of my vibrations is going upstate and being in nature. And I think that's like a lot of the similar things that a lot of people talk about is like tapping into nature. And that has a different vibration and it totally recalibrates you and whatever. And you can like come from within, you know, harness that energy like from within. But
well, my personal world is fantastic. I love it. But when I go out into the world that's outside of my bubble, right? That's what I'm saying. Like when I need to go to the market to get something, or driving and there's just a million angry people that just want to be angry and they're driving.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
stuff
I
like
hear
that.
you. I mean, it's like, it's difficult too, because I get myself into some trouble because there's other evils out there. There's sociopathy, there's narcissism, there's just people waiting to take advantage of, nice people. And so it sucks getting caught up in some bullshit. So yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I don't know. What can we
Because if
do,
we-
guys? Collective consciousness stuff.
I know, right? It's funny. It's interesting to me because I tend to find myself in. I live a lovely life, and so my frequency is really high often. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not perfect either, and it's always, we're always working, but I find that it's easy to get pulled down by others.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually shocks me sometimes where I'll just be derailed immediately, and then strange things will happen that don't usually happen for me. Like I'll have a temper rise or something. I'm not a high fire. I used to have some fire to me. My astrological chart's very fiery, but it doesn't. I'm able generally to control that, and yet there are times when I find I just want to go off, and that's unusual for me, and that's very specific to this time period. And so there's a lot of people from the New Age, there's a lot of people from this section of the world and that section of the world talking about a new earth and all this other stuff, and yet it's interesting to try and parse that out when you're looking at it.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying, because like the whole collective consciousness theory, like this whole, what is it, age of Aquarius is like a positive shift to something.
Yes.
But we're not seeing it.
To a
Seems to be, and it seems to be, in fact, going the other way.
Well, that's because we're 200 years away from that yuga.
So we're in the depths of it, Jerry, right?
We're in the age of Pisces right now.
But we're in that in between. So
I don't know if we're in between or it just hasn't fully shifted over yet. We're not. I don't think it's close to our lifetime.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like we're not fully like shifted into the age of Aquarius yet.
No.
So we're still on the like.
This is the dark before the dawn.
Yeah, and that makes much more sense because I do not feel it's the age of Aquarius either. I agree with you, and I mean, and I don't mean to sound all like new agey hippy dippy shit, but it's like, when you do go over this stuff and these ordeals and like this alchemy stuff, like I know it's like such a simplistic answer to be like, oh, it's all within you, and it's like, yes, all these people attacking me for no reason and doing a lot of unfair stuff to me, like, yes, it's all about me. Like maybe if I fix mine, no, fuck that. People that are just fucked up, they attack you for no reason. So I get it, but most of the things that kind of it wraps around to in these like lessons and stuff is that it is kind of about you, and I guess it's the same thing if we're like an SJW were to complain that you like offended them or whatever. It's like, dude, that's about you. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
you have to work out why you're upset that someone said something, like you can't let that affect you. And I think you're probably like me, very sensitive and like empathetic, and so like we get derailed because of other people very easily because it's like we're so emotional about it. I don't know, maybe I'm just getting, you seem really like nice and like me, where it's like we're so emotionally invested in any little thing that it can like really fuck us up.
That's always been my problem with, and this is one of the reasons why I identified when I saw your story. I was so shocked by it, and yet it's happened to me in other ways,
right?
And it's and even sometimes when we get feedback from people, I'm like, what? They don't what was just said? What did they call me? And it takes me back, and I want to detach from it, and yet at some point there's this idea, well, okay, what do I need out of this?
Mm-hmm.
That is coming at me, and what how should I know I shouldn't take it in, but apparently I need the information in some way to transcend it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Like no matter what, like it's gonna affect me, I can try or whatever. It's easy to just say, well, I don't care what people think, but yeah, that's ultimately it is kind of like the same lesson that they say. It's like, we got to sort that out, within ourselves. So in a sense, yeah, when there's people doing fucked up shit for no reason, there's still a way to handle it, even if it's, I don't know, just staying sane and being strong and finding some sort of root power and lesson to learn from it, like I'm getting fucked over by someone that I worked with that was a friend, and it's like, there's something to learn in there, I guess, like write contracts, like don't make the same mistakes. Don't let people walk all over you, like there is something maybe like from within me that can be shifted, because I can't really change can't really change the world.
But see, this is the thing. And so with in context to dreaming, because to me, there's no separation. Everything to me relates to dreams. So I may not have to use the word dreams to be talking about dreams. Some people don't get that.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a difficult thing to traverse that landscape with some people. But so if we consider, like I consider when I'm moving through bad stuff or stuff that's annoying, the first thing I do is like, how can I take this and transmute this energy? How can I make this, which seems out of my control, something I can become lucid to and of, and right. then like you do in your lucid dreams, move it away, move it over there, push it out, cast it out, whatever you need to do, and become the dreamer awakened within the dream, that idea. And the dreamer awaken within the dream that's within the dream of reality.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah. And I think that's the power. And that's, again, that power from within. And I mean, it's empowering me now, talking about it with you, to think about my situation that way and how helpless I feel, and to be able to regain that power through kind of going, okay, now let me become really lucid about this.
Yes,
if this is a lesson, if this is something that I have to, break through and understand on a deeper level, like, all right, let's go there. Like, that suddenly makes me feel more at ease with my situation that's fucked up,
Yeah, it's like more like a sense of control, which is that's part of lucidity.
Yeah.
That's part of lucidity. And I also, you mentioned it earlier, so it took me a long time to be okay with the term, because I have had issues with the whole new age kind of hippie thing. And I wasn't raised in a religion, so I can talk God all day and I don't have baggage about that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get indoctrinated into rebelling against God. But I do have a little baggage around new age, because some of that was around me for sure. And it just was so flaky. Mm-hmm. And so I worked through that. Mm-hmm. However, when I encounter some of that language, now I'm starting to embrace it. And so it took me years to embrace the idea that, yes, I am, and I'm sympathetic, I'm empathic, I feel deeply. That's what all that is. And I needed to parse out, why do people affect me so deeply? Yeah. And this plays out in my dreams. This is absolutely, like I said earlier, I can't parse out the difference between my dreams and reality, except for, like we were talking about earlier, reality or waking life does seem to have deeper consequences. Like, I know that I at least have a sense of, if I take a knife, it's going to hurt to my skin. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to bleed, and then I'll have a scar and all that. So I buy into that for sure. But when it's this emotional, tumultuous experience that I can have through whatever, heartache, pain for others, and that's where the empathy thing comes in. Mm-hmm. And why it's easier for me to be alone and not around people, because I seem to take on people's stuff.
Yeah. So we have emotional vampires, because we get and they feed off of us. Yes. We give them our energy so much, and they feed off of it.
Yes.
Drains
And
us.
that they totally feed off of us. And it's how, and I think sometimes they, no matter how strong we are, how fierce we are with our own bubble of being closed and protected and all that and lucid, it's still somehow like you can get a straw stuck right into and all your life force just sucked right out from left field. Like you don't even see it coming sometimes.
Yeah, and you gotta like be alone to recharge.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We're classic introvert. You're an introvert, definitely.
Yeah. I could be alone in my room.
Oh shit! I thought I was muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, Jerry, carry on.
No, I was gonna say, what do you like, an INFJ?
What's an INF?
I forgot. Introverted.
Oh, it's your Jungian psychological, like introvert. I'm an INTP often, but it changes. So it's like the Myers-Briggs or Kiersey
Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, well, I mean that makes sense. I also have really bad stage anxiety, so that would make sense. Because I care so much about like what the audience would like perceives me, and like it stresses me out, and I just like,
introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging.
Yeah.
Well, that you have to take, those tests are kind of long, but anyway, so with that idea, so we're talking about death in conjunction with as a state of consciousness, with the waking life as a state of consciousness, and then layering in the dreamscape as a state of consciousness, and then also memory is a state of consciousness. And so we start traversing the idea of just those 4 points, right? And it's hard to understand, again, memory. So we haven't introduced the idea of memory, except for just getting the foundation of who you are. But the idea of memory alone is so shaky. Like if we didn't have documentation, how would we know any of it existed?
Yeah. Well, they also have a lot of those tests. I mean, as an artist, like an actual fine artist, if you're drawing or painting something, like even something as simple as like an apple, which I happen to be very good at drawing apples. And it's actually really impressive. But yeah, it's you have an idea in your head what you think it looks like. And then there's the reality, which is why still lives are a thing in art, even for a fruit, a bowl of fruit or something, because to be able to really see how light hits something and how shadows are placed is different than your memory. So it's always going to look shitty if it's like kind of from memory of sorts, you know? And also in the legal system, I think a lot of witnesses do a lot of like, the reports are really like bad. There's a lot of like false like reporting from witnesses because it's just like people's memories are just shit. They remember like wrong things.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. This is why it's such shaky ground. And if there's not documentation, and that's shaky in and of itself to me anyway, but just if we just took the documentation of, oh, here's a picture of little Martina at the age of 2. Does little Martina exist? You know, it's that whole thing.
Right. Yeah.
It's that whole concept.
Yeah.
And so what I'm getting at with that is, in the idea that we call this waking life the reality, and your one life that you're in, it's your Martina reality, but you can't really remember a lot of stuff when you go back too far. And sometimes I can't even remember stuff from yesterday. Like it all kind of bleeds in. Although the memory, my vivid memories are my vivid memories.
Well, that's the thing about also the dream thing, going back to the dreams, where it's like they would say as like exercise, as another exercise, is to practice being lucid in your daytime. So that means like not functioning on like autopilot.
Right.
And that's also what alchemy does. It's about being present, you know, or Buddhism or whatever. It's like being present. And we can all do it like right now, where suddenly time slows down and we're really aware of our surroundings. You know, and like everything is really good. That's what being on stage is like too. And it's just like you just become so present. You're you know, that is when your memory is really good. And so it's something about practicing this like spirituality, whatever, inner self, whatever stuff, this like, you know, high level vibration stuff, is constantly remembering to be in that state of lucidity, you know. And it's like, that's what you gotta, that's the aim. Constantly remember to get lucid in real life, because we constantly slip into autopilot just like our lucid dreaming.
Right. Well, this is the thing about the cycles. And then we can rev that out real big, like the cycles of the eons, right? From
Yeah.
Pisces to Aquarius. I mean, we can just push it way, it's a fractal. It's fractalizing or mirroring out. But we still get caught in the idea. And this is the thing why it always feels to me like we're caught here with this waking life. This is the real. This is the true. And yet I was a 6-year-old trying to tie my shoe, right? And that was the real and true. And then, well, was I in the 1890s trying to tie my shoe? Was that the real and the true? And there I was in that dream, remembering that I was in a dream. You know, like this idea just keeps like spiraling in on itself. And it makes me question, why do we actually subscribe to the ideas that this is real? Why do we tell ourselves this is real? I just wonder, I'm just throwing this out, these are just questions, like, what if everyone in the world all at once decided to do something in synchronicity, synced up, like the whole world? I'm talking about every conscious person, or you know, every soul at least, did something to bring in an act of lucidity. And I know that the Sufis try to do this, and one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had was Sufi dancing while on LSD. Was amazing. Oh my God. It was unbelievable. But you know, this, where I felt like I was a part, you know, they do it in those big circles. There's several circles, and it's amazing. I don't even know how to describe how amazing that is. But I felt like I had left this now, and I understood that religious ecstatic experience through that experience, and then started to go, okay, so now I have a marker for this experience. Now I know what to call that, which is what we do as artists, right? We show people stuff, or let them experience stuff that they may not have known was possible. That's the whole role of being the architect in our lives and showing other people what's possible. So why is it we're stuck in this mire? Why are we down here in the Catherine wheel? Why do people rule over us? And those are the kinds of, I know these are unanswerable questions really in the end, but the more people that we engage with these conversations of philosophical juiciness, I think we're raising vibrations just by asking these questions.
Yeah.
Instead of reading about Plato talking about it. It's all right for us here, wherever Plato is in his time. It's, you know, that's great, but we need to have our time too. And this is apparently a time where we're conscious, where we can talk about these things, and somehow we're going to elevate ourselves by the idea of opening our minds. Don't you think?
Yeah, I definitely have always believed in like some collective conscious, I mean, and I was looking forward to some shift that you speak of. It's quite a daunting task for every single conscious soul to be on, you know, to have a shift, because there's some dopey ass people out there.
Are they real though? Jesus.
Yeah, oh my God. But there have been times in history of like some collective conscious type thing. A lot of like major discoveries in history happen around the same time. Like calculus was actually, I guess, what do you want to call it, discovered? I think there's a debate if math is discovered or invented. And it's invented. But yeah, it was not just Newton, but like Leibniz or something. Leibniz is another mathematician. It's two completely different areas of the world. no contact with each other, around the same time, created this concept of calculus. You
Steinmetz,
know?
isn't it? I think it's Steinmetz.
What is
it
it?
Steinmetz?
I don't know. I feel like it's some sort of I feel like it's
Yeah.
an L. Let me see.
It is. It's Leibniz.
Leibniz. Okay.
Yeah. And
Steinmetz was more in the Einstein era.
Steinmetz was more Teslonian.
Yeah, yep. Getting them confused. Everyone's confused.
Damn you! Get your old German people straight.
right. Yeah, some sort of But yeah, no. I mean, this happens quite a few times where, oh God, all this noise. I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
We can barely hear it. It's all just loud on your side.
All right. Because usually people on my streams are like, "Oh my God, what's going on out there?" And I'm like, "Geez, really?"
It's New York.
Yeah, exactly. No, but there's throughout history, like things like that, where for some reason around the same time, certain things like happened in like different parts of the world, and like it's like some sort of collective kind of consciousness thing, which is interesting.
Is that like part of the idea of the 100th monkey, right? Where we do leaps of consciousness at some point.
Yeah.
Or is it that every idea already exists in the cloud, and sometimes people just tune into the right frequency and get it at the same
cloud.
time?
Yes.
It's like the Apple cloud or something. Is it
Don't
Apple?
even compare it to Apple.
I'm just kidding.
That is a word that will not be named on this show.
But it's interesting that is now in the digital world, the cloud, right? As it has a digital component.
Yeah.
It's funny because today I'm looking up, I was just following a stream on the patents and use of cloud seeding and making it rain from different technologies. And the algorithms just wanted to keep puking forward the technical digital cloud and not the technology of making rain.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Wow.
Well, we're deeper into this digital reality.
Wow.
We're going deeper in. And so that is, Jerry, yes.
I was going to say, you listened to Shane's video, right?
I did, yeah.
And that whole idea that what our thoughts are being altered by AI.
Yes. Well, there we have it, right?
Implanted. Yeah, right there.
And that is exactly the lead-in I wanted to find in this. So, Martina, how do you think this is? That's our synchronicity bell.
Oh, I love that.
How do you think so? All right, so we've got all this overlap, right, with consciousness. And really in the end, that's what this show's about, is consciousness. So we've got all these things we've introduced, all these little bubbles, memories, dreams, death, here and now. Now let's move into the idea of AI and sentient AI. And how so we kind of talked about this. We've talked about the sim and Second Life and all that. So we've in the cloud now. Where do you think this is all playing in to this whole narrative? And in particular, is it piercing the veil of dreams? Is it piercing our unconscious as we're processing and we're in other states of consciousness? And of course, this is just your opinion. This is the whole thing. This is just fodder. We're talking.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, there are two. I don't know if we're there yet, but you've heard of like point of singularity, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I talk about it a lot.
Yeah. So like that whole concept of like technology growing exponentially, but we're like biological. It grows really, really slowly. So
that whole Moore's law thing.
Yeah, so there's that point of where they're going to start to surpass us, but that I feel like isn't close yet for our timeline, our timeline, same thing. And
is it the same thing?
And but at the same time, the dreams, man, it's too. Yeah, we really don't know shit about it, really.
That's what I'm saying. They could
really
be.
don't know how to tap into that at all. So those two, concepts, I mean, from technology, something so physical and something so tangible, like real, like physically, and then something just so in the astral world. And when those things have like point of singularity, like when that hits a point of singularity is I think where you're talking about. That's like unreal. It's an interesting story actually. So like write like a fiction novel about that.
It's like the idea of almost like a different level of the idea of the Big Bang, right? When singularity all of a sudden has this awakening, like all this stuff comes together and it creates this huge boom of consciousness for something that was moving in that direction, obviously, but all of a sudden there's this event. It's an event.
Yeah.
But girl, I'm very controversial. The
Ooh,
controversy.
tell me.
Well, I think the singularity already happened.
Okay.
So I'm one of those people that believes in like the causality loops.
Yeah, so like basically also, like the government has technologies that like they don't disclose to like the public for like decades. That's like crazy advanced.
Right.
So,
and
like,
so
not there yet.
That's a conspiracy theory.
But if we're in a dream, what about the architects, right? So what if this is a dream? And what if the government, the people, and if we start identifying what the government is a group of, at least at some level, architects that are constructing the narrative for us. So if you, in your lucid dream, are able to maintain that lucidity, right? And get more power and gain more awakening within the dream, right? Then all of a sudden you're formidable and you are, that's either good or bad, right? It just depends. But you are able to now step up as an architect and start rearranging things that affect this idea of the waking world.
And then we can storm Area 51.
Right. Well, and girl, Lady Alchemy becomes real.
Yeah.
You can fly, like I actually don't limit myself to so for me, dreaming is at the, I guess as we're coming around towards closer to the end of this, for me, the idea of dreaming is always to awaken within it. And I've taken that further and I'm trying to find that keyhole in this awakened reality, in our waking life, and move that idea from the dreamscape into waking life. I want the fuzzy, but I also don't want the crazy. So I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? I want the grounded idea. So when I'm lucid in my dreams, I accept that I can walk through a wall. Here, I don't accept it because of the laws we apply, the laws the architects of this reality have said are real. So I can't walk through the wall.
But then we get into quantum physics and then we realize that we don't know anything about the laws of this reality.
Quantum physics is just a theory. What if it's not right?
That's true. But it's like trying to understand
what if it is,
the weirdness.
You should approach it like any other, theory. It's a theory, and it needs to be considered equally amongst a lot of other things. They still deny the ether exists.
Who denies
Tesla.
Science.
I know.
Oh yeah, science does. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Quantum physics starts to be like, well, we don't really know anything how things are really functioning on the
the tiny minute
level.
Yeah. Well, and that's the idea of fractals, right? So if we're just a fractal, or we're a mirror of all this that's going on, if we're just one little aspect, what does that really mean? I mean, we can say those words, we can look at pretty fractals, but what does that mean? Jerry, what do you think? I see you want to.
I was muting actually, but what was the question?
if we are just this experience we're having, this little bubble experience we're having is one fractal. Just say it's one fractal. So it can go any which way. What does that mean? When we take it outside the concept of words and beautiful images people make of fractals in the world through nature, I mean, what
Well,
does it actually mean?
To me, it means that we're in a simulation, some kind of construct, because fractals are, a natural pattern that are really easy to calculate. They're simple to calculate. So if I was designing a program to house consciousnesses, I would use as many natural patterns that I could that were easy to code,
See, Jerry's a coder. He's written
Oh,
like
awesome.
11 books on it.
That's
So
awesome.
I have.
he comes from that background, so he thinks like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I love it.
I remember once when I first started playing World of Warcraft. You ever play that, Martina?
No, I don't play games.
You never played a game in your whole life?
No, I played games in the 90s like Super Mario Brothers and stuff.
All right.
I love
Tetris?
Mario
So,
Brothers.
One of the things I
Mega
noticed
Man.
when I was playing World of Warcraft was that as I was running, and forever because you had to fucking run everywhere, but whatever. When you stopped in grass or something, you would occasionally see a butterfly go by.
Huh.
And the thought that hit me was, wow, somebody actually had to code that, draw it, incorporate the sprites.
Yeah.
Think of all the work that went into just putting that butterfly in that frame. And of course, when I turned around, it was over here to my left or right, or, when I ran past it quickly, I only got two-second glance of it. So I don't know where I was going with that. It's complex. Whatever we're in is a complex thing that we can't comprehend.
Yeah, for sure.
When you start looking down at the molecular level, nothing you touch, you ever touch. It's the electric field that surrounds the thing you're touching, and the electric field that surrounds you are what touches. And your nerves pick up those electrical impulses, and your brain translates them to feelings. Same with your vision. You don't actually see what you see. You see the energy pattern of the things in front of you, and your brain turns it upside down, inverts it, and converts that energy into an image which you think you see, but it's just being projected by your brain. So,
the blackness of the inside of your head.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy when you think about it.
The reality that we live in, we have no idea what's there. We look through it. We look at it through a mask, through a veil, of our physical being. It's wild when you think about it that way.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, when I studied math, it's similar to a lot of that kind of concept. And I actually took some program, Maple software. We used that. I don't know. I guess people have made things.
The typing software, Maple?
Yeah, it's like you can do like derivatives and integrals and shit on it, and then you can graph, because math, everything algebraically can be represented graphically, and like I don't know, they showed examples of it for being used for like things like I don't know, making like doing like Toy Story stuff or whatever,
Yeah,
like
MapleSoft. I remember it.
Yeah, Maple software. So I've learned how to like program like mathematical equations and do projects for calculus like on that, but all my studies of math and even like different dimensions, right? Again, algebraically, you can do things to the nth dimension or whatever dimensions, and it's like, okay, everything can be represented like algebraically in real life, and it's like, well, what is that nth dimension? What is the 12th dimension? What are all these things? They exist in math, and it's like, to me, I'm just trying to understand, like, the more I know about math, it like really leads me to show like how complex this system is that God created. And I just found it surprising when other like math students were like just so hardcore, like, no, math proves that God doesn't exist. I'm like, that's so inverted compared to me. I was like, to me, it's showing how complex God is, like it's crazy.
Well, that's the thing, is that this is the beautiful thing about equations and math and coding and all this. For people that don't or have not move down those realms, because I do think that that's part of a very important part of understanding some of this reality we're in, that plays into the reality we're in when we're in a dream, the reality when we're in when we're remembering a memory, or remembering the memory of a dream, or dreaming forward, or planning forward and dreaming about the future. That a lot of people are lost in some of the mechanics, and I think the mechanics sometimes are a huge part of unraveling all this.
Yeah.
For me, it seems that it's very important, but you get into a lot of the, at least the old school New Age, the furthest it would go was not very far, and then it was nice to see the sacred geometry movements come out and all that. But we need all this information. Every little bit has a place in us all understanding what's going on in a bigger scale. I think there's nothing, absolutely nothing, that's before us that is insignificant. This is all making up and creating this reality that is multidimensional. And that's where you say multidimensional and people immediately think woo woo. Well, you go to sleep and you have a dream. That's another dimension. That's another field. That's another plane. That's not woo woo. Everyone experiences it. How's it woo woo?
What's woo woo?
Woo's like the crazy end. It's like it starts getting into the. So from a normal
it's the
person's
non-scientific.
perspective, it's the non-scientific, or it's the far out, it's the conspiracy land, or it's the
interdimensional
land.
Aliens is woo, for instance.
Yeah.
Astral travel is woo to the public.
Oh, I never knew that. I never knew that term.
So having your dreams is woo to a lot of people. Materialist dreams. We've talked to many materialists, and dreams aren't very significant to a lot of people. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but I'm always surprised. I'm like, this is a big part of your life, whether you want to accept it or not, whether you recall it or not. It's happening. It happens to you. And it, for me, as a curious person, and definitely as an introvert, these kinds of things lead me forward. Like, okay, this is happening to me. I think I'm going to be curious about it. What is going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating.
It is. It's interesting stuff. I'm wondering if we have questions from the chat this evening.
Oh my!
I have one question so far.
We never really have a lot of questions, Martina.
Excuse me while I tweet. I should post. Okay. The question was, can you cook a nice goulash?
Oh,
I can.
Yeah. I have a whole streaming video about goulash. Hell yeah, I make the best goulash in town.
My grandma made the best goulash.
Oh yeah? Yeah, no, that's what they
I don't think I've ever had goulash.
Really? Yeah, no, we do that in my family for some reason. During like the holidays, they love it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Goulash is good. It's classic.
I make a Hungarian goulash. It's nice and meaty and stewy.
Paprika
with some spice up in there.
Yeah, it's good.
That's the only question.
That's funny. That's the only question.
Yeah, no, I have a stream on my YouTube channel. It's just,
so talk about yourself. Talk about yourself.
Talk about myself.
Go ahead and plug. Let's hear the plugs.
Yeah, no, I have my goulash stream if you want to check it out on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Martina Markota TV, MartinaMarkota TV. Yeah, same with the social medias and stuff. I'm surprised I don't see my crew in the chat really. So this is mostly your people. So hit me up if you don't know who I am, and I pretty much provide a lot of like artsy, cultural kind of content.
History.
Yeah, art history on YouTube, art history, and we also do etiquette. Emily Post, she's the leading author on American etiquette. Her book was published in 1922, and there's just some really interesting stuff in there. You know, it like takes you back to like the turn of the century and just some of their customs and what goes on, and it's just always really interesting stuff. And it's kind of nice to go back to that.
Your peeps are all here. They're just lurking.
Okay, all right. Hey guys, thanks for coming by. I thought this was a really fun little chat. I definitely want to promote it again. Hopefully people go back to re-listen to it. Oh yeah, tomorrow, right? It's gonna post online.
No, it's online right now. This is a live show.
Oh right, no, but I think you have the podcast, right?
Yeah, I stripped the audio. I'll peel the audio off, and that'll go out as a podcast tomorrow.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, no, because it's a really fun chat. I think like the whole dream thing is really fun. You guys should come on my channel maybe, and we can do the same thing.
I don't know if that'd be allowed.
Thank you so much, though.
I'm kidding. We'll definitely come on anytime.
Well, of course, we love to come and chit chat.
Right.
I love that you said yes and entertained all this kind of philosophical headiness that there are no answers for. It frustrates some people. It excites others. But
It's a total escape from the nastiness of reality right now.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
right?
It's true. Yeah.
And I just adore your work. I'm so glad it's still out there. I'm so glad the stuff you have moving forward is going to happen. And just keep pushing, sister. Keep pushing.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thanks.
You're rocking it. You always rock it. And the rest is just dust in the wind.
Are you going to be live later tonight?
Me? I don't know. I was thinking about it.
You should. You got like the
Yeah.
eyelashes on and everything.
A few people asked in chat. That's why.
I don't
So
know.
okay. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was great talking to you. Great to meet you.
Thank you so much.
And all of those links you talked about are in the show description and show notes on Discord. And thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Nish.
Thank you, Jerry.
Be sure. Oh, I did want to say, if you're not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, please subscribe, because YouTube is changing the rules, and videos that are marked age they're going to start age restricting videos soon, and you won't see our videos like in your feed unless you are subscribed to the channel. So just FYI there.
I'm really enjoying that brand new tube, by the way. Just saying.
The what?
It's called Brand New Tube.
Never heard of it.
And I keep trying them all out. DLive, BitChute, just everything that comes through. I get on and try, but Brand New Tube I'm enjoying it just because it's the same UI basically.
Cool. I will check it out.
Who do we have next week?
Next week we have Stacy Jewell from the Bejeweled podcast. She's a host of that.
Okay, excellent.
And then the week after that, we've got Alex Stein coming back for Nox Mente.
We love some Alex. Alex is so great. And okay, yes. So that next week is an obelisk.
No.
Is that a Nox Mente too?
Yeah, I don't have any obelisks scheduled. We have to talk about scheduling. I've run out of people again.
Oh Lord. There's so many people.
The 14th,
we'll talk about that.
14th will be an obelisk, and I think I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm going to try and get Thomas Sheridan to come on.
Oh, cool. We haven't had Sheridan for a while.
And if not, I'm going to try and hit up Joseph P. Farrell again, see if he'll come on. So.
Excellent. All right.
All right.
Thank you, everyone that I can't see in the chat because I'm not there watching.
All right, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye.
We will talk to you next week.